I guess it kind of goes back to 2004 when I visited Antarctica, and when I came back I wrote a piece called Cryosphere, which is about a world of ice. And then as I sort of researched and read about that, I discovered that underneath a world of ice is another crust which is called Lithosphere, the world of stone, or a ball of stone, litho being stone. And so kind of this idea of something monumental, something huge. And so I started to write some sketches for it, and in the 2011 readings, I think it was, the NZSO did Lithosphere, the first movement of it. Tequin was conducting that, and I'd got the sketches for that and the second movement sort of all mapped out in my head, but in the meantime I ended up writing 2 other symphonies that have since been performed and done. So it seems a bit odd that I'm still working on the first symphony, but it's because chronologically it's the one that was sort of conceived early on. So the idea is Lithosphere, a world of stone. So the first movement is quite sort of monolithic, and the ideas were quite heavy, very strong, very sort of a lot of use made of the contrabassoon, the double basses, the bassoons, bass clarinets, cello, right down at the bottom end, playing very sort of strong music. And so the second movement, the movement that they're recording at the moment, is sort of like using some of those ideas but sort of just playing them out a little bit, just resolving some of them. On a very basic level, the motif in the first movement kind of is descending, and the one in this movement is kind of climbing, so you've got that sort of difference happening there. And but the feeling is still quite heavy. And it was interesting because this morning Selena Fisher's piece went first, and her piece Rain Phase is all full of delicate nuance and textures and sort of feathering out of the sort of the ideas and these beautiful light textures. And so when I introduced my piece to the orchestra, I said, well, actually what you've got is you've got the 2 elements here actually juxtaposed. You've got water, and with mine you've got stone, and having the 2 together is quite good, because in her piece all of these things are sort of quite ethereal and ephemeral, and these beautiful gossamer textures, and mine's quite sort of solid. And I said, and it was funny because they came to me afterwards and said, that's exactly how we felt when we played it, and they got it just through the just that simple description. And it was a really cool way of actually programming the rehearsals, because it really made sense of the 2 things. So this is the second movement, and then the third movement I actually realised the other day I've got about a minute and a half written for it, but in actual fact it doesn't quite fit, but it really fits another piece. It fits a cello concerto that I'm finishing, so actually I'm just going to move it across, and then when I go home use some of the energy and the thoughts that I've had about this to actually start on a new third movement, which hopefully they'll do, it'll probably be ready in a year or 2, 3 if the present time scheme is sort of anything to go back. But it would be really nice for them to do it, because they're a great group to work with. They always make me feel so welcome. They're very nice. It's really nice I know some of them, and Hamish is a really nice guy, and he totally unflappable, and he looks at some of these scores and he just beats it through, and it's just there. But that you can write anything for these people and they'll just play it, and do a great job of it. And also think about some of the nuances. Like in this piece there's an oboe solo just for about 30 seconds, just the oboe on its own, and it's just beautiful, and it's just everything I wanted from the solo, and every little nuance just picked up from the score, and also sort of just the way I wanted it. you know, like Kandinsky talks about art, sort of like having an inner working and a superficial working. Look at the superficial working of this, is that it was started off being about stone, and I read about Lithosphere, and that was kind of interesting, and that gave me a musical idea. But then you get into the piece, and the piece has inner workings, and it takes on a life of its own, and it, like an errant child, it goes off in that direction, and you want to go with it because it's got an internal energy. And as I said, just listening to this piece too, the way where it wants to go is actually in a different way to how I'd originally planned it out. So back to the drawing board for the third movement. It's a real reward when you come to work with NZSO, because you write it, they play it, basically. And so from a composer's point of view, it's carte blanche, which can be a scary thing as well, because in all of the other things you have limits, and so you know those are limits. When you're given no limits, it's kind of, well, what can you come up with? And this one here, the one that they're going to record tomorrow is, as I said, probably one of the straightest pieces I've put in front of them. I think this is the third or the fourth workshop that I've done there, and this is probably the most mainstream, straightforward, short. But it's it's an integral part of the whole symphony, and it means now that I'll have the first and second movements ready to roll, and gives me something just to play on to get the third movement going.